Hey y'all, welcome to Tears and Joy in Your 20s. I'm your host, Julia Light, and I am so glad you're here. Navigating your 20s comes with a lot of highs and lows, a lot of freedom, and a lot of uncertainty. That's why I created a space for conversation about all of it. On this podcast, you'll hear interviews of creatives, entrepreneurs, people doing big things in their 20s telling their story, tears and joy and all. I hope this helps you know you're not alone. There's so much to look forward to, and you can savor this season right in the messy middle. Okay, y'all, I'm so excited to welcome to the podcast today, Emily Denny. Hi, Emily.
How's it going?
Oh, so good. How are you?
I'm so excited to be here and just do this.
I know.
I cannot wait. We've been talking about it for like 2 months now.
Yeah. Because, Emily lived in New York. She's living in Florida right now. And so I was like, when are you coming in town? I want you on the podcast.
Yeah, I know. We were like, we could do it over Zoom, but then I was like, wait, I want to do it in person.
Yeah, I'm so glad we're doing it in person.
Me too.
It's way more fun. Okay, I'm going to read Emily's bio for those of y'all who don't know her so that you can get to know her a little bit. Emily is a photographer. She has 8 years of editorial and documentary wedding and brand photography experience, and she has recently started building coaching and mentorship programs too.
Yes.
Emily has a course online called Mastering Reels, right?
Yes. Basically, well, I went already through the first round. Probably by this time this podcast released, we'll go through the where it's just going to be released to everyone.
Oh, good.
But the first round, I was doing more individualized training. So they would do the course, and then we do like a 30-minute mentorship session. But this one, I'm going to include the 30-minute mentorship sessions on the second part of the course. So it won't be as individualized where I'm doing it with everyone else.
Okay.
But they get to take the entire course, go through it all, and then watch other people's live mentorship
Oh, amazing.
sessions. So it's like a cool little dynamic to it.
That's awesome. And it's a course all about using Instagram Reels
Yes.
to grow your photography business.
Yeah, because I 100, and we can probably talk about this later
Yeah.
too, but I 100% believe that Instagram's one of the biggest tools for entrepreneurs, specifically photographers, because it's such a photo platform.
True, yeah.
So yeah, I always am encouraging photographers to utilize Reels because it's one of the number one things that Instagram's pushing right now.
Yes.
So you can gain a lot of new people through Instagram Reels.
That's so true. Yeah, Emily, if you can already tell, she's very savvy. She's very oh, what's this? I'm going to dive into that. And so I'm really excited to have your perspective on the story. But yeah, Emily started full-time photography when she moved to New York City in 2021. So
Yes.
we're going to hear her story. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, of course. It's an honor. So, Emily, tell us your story of your 20s so far.
Yes.
How old are you? Mid-20s?
26.
Okay, amazing. That's my favorite
Crazy.
number.
27 this year.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Honestly, I always keep saying that I'm so excited to turn 30 one day because that's I feel like when I'll peak.
That's a thing for sure. I'm probably going to post it soon, but I was making this reel of things I didn't expect in my 20s. And one of them is wishing I could just be 30.
Honestly.
Which-
20s are so much fun, but there's a lot of growth. And I don't even think we think about that as 20, people in our 20s.
No.
We think, we're going to be going through things, but we don't realize how much newness is just hitting us in the face every day.
Yes, every day. Yeah, and how it could all change so fast. And I'm sure, too, that I'm by the time I'm 30, maybe I'm going to need to make a podcast about your 30s. I don't know. I'm sure there's so many challenges, but this specific decade can feel so disorienting 100%. And wonderful. And that's why I made this podcast.
Exactly.
Because it's both. But yeah, tell us your story of your 20s so far.
Yes.
And starting college, what you thought post-grad might look like, and how you decided to become a photographer.
Yes. So post-grad looked a lot different than I thought it was going to be. People are always did you study art? Did you study marketing? Did you study business? And I'm like, no, I studied human development and family sciences with a concentration in child development. People are like, wait, where did you get that with now being a photographer? And I think so many people go through this, and I think sometimes it's even so under talked about where people go through college expecting one thing and then come out wanting another, and then almost feel guilty that they went through college studying one thing but then went out getting another. And I love to talk to people about this, especially people in college. And my little sister's going through college right now too, and so I'm always telling her whatever you do, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Because we're still learning and growing so much in college.
Yeah.
And I think college is a great tool because, it opens a lot of doors for some things. But I think it's even more important to start discovering yourself and learn who you are, what you want out of life, start learning how to be an adult outside of your family and outside of your family's wishes and just all that type of thing you're now learning in college. So I think it's such an important life stage. And even if you don't go to college, like those moments right out of high school are such an important time to grow and figure out who you are and what you want to do. And so I think I was doing that, but I heard such a big message of, you know, whatever you go to college for, that's what you're going to be doing. And my whole family also, all the girls in my family or just people in my family in general all had very traditional jobs, and a lot of them being helping careers with some kind of like ministry or child life or teaching or something with like children or helping kind of career. And so I think I went into college expecting that out of myself because that's all I've seen adults in my life do. And I didn't really think there was even an opportunity to be an entrepreneur or be a photographer or creative in any way. I thought that was more of people's hobbies, you know? And so I went to college with that degree thinking I was going to be either a teacher or a child life specialist in a hospital, which if you don't know what a child life specialist is, it's basically you go into hospitals and you help children go through the developmental stages as they're in a hospitalized situation. And
it's
so
a very cool job.
It's very cool. And I like applaud everyone who does that. I just kind of, and I almost felt guilty too, being like, oh, am I going through this, like, I'm going away from this really important career to like a less important career. And I had to learn that each one is so important and is so utilized for so many different things. If we just had a bunch of horrible photographers, then like that wouldn't be good either.
No, so true.
Photography and art is such a way for me to make people feel special and cared for and like valued. And I think that's such an important thing too that I didn't even realize that I had the skills for and other people had the skills for other things. So that was kind of a crazy journey in college, and come towards the end of it was actually when I realized I didn't want to do it. So I went through my whole college experience expecting to do this, went through internships, everything. And then the last semester of college, I remember going through a communications class and people stood up and talked about what they were going to do after college because we were all kind of graduating that year. And one person stood up and said that they were going to be doing something. I think it was they were going to be a vendor for weddings, or they were designing different things for weddings. And I just remember sitting there and being like, that's so cool. I wish I could do something like that. And I kind of sat there with myself and I was like, wait, why can't I do something like that? Like, no one's telling me I can't. Like, no one's forcing me into this. And so after that, I just started figuring out the idea of maybe I could be something on my own. Maybe I could go in kind of the art direction, but I still had zero idea what to do with that. I was like, no one's taught me.
Had you ever done photography or anything with the arts as a hobby before, or had you been like a side hustle photographer in college, or did it kind of come after you realized you wanted to be creative?
Yeah, no, I had been such a creative kid my whole life.
Okay.
So it was definitely a part of me, and I had been in arts all throughout high school, and I picked up a camera the first day in college, essentially.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So I'd been doing shoots on the side and like definitely invested in photography. So it wasn't just something I was like, I think I'll choose photography.
Yeah, that makes
like it was something I've always kind of loved. And even as a child, like I always asked for cameras for Christmas. Like it was something I definitely saw I was invested in, and just the arts in general. It wasn't necessarily specifically photography till I got to college and started really loving it, but it was definitely always there. And so it wasn't just a spur of the moment thing. I always wanted to do something creative in the back of my mind. I just didn't see it as being a full-time career.
Yeah, realizing then, oh, I can do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, cool. Okay. So then what did that look like after you had that moment in class and then kind of graduating? Did you start full-time immediately, or what did that look like?
Yeah, so in that time, COVID actually happened. And
so you're a 2020 grad.
Yeah, May 2020. Yeah, May 2020 was my graduate year. So right after I literally made this decision, the whole world shut down.
Awesome.
And I think at that point, I was almost just feeling defeated, which it's like I shouldn't have because the whole world was shut down. It wasn't just me that was shut down.
True.
But it almost felt like it was just me because now I was going through this like almost quarter life crisis where I was like, what am I doing with my life? It's my career. I'm not even utilizing anything anymore that I've been studying. I don't know how to get into any kind of market for creativity. nothing. And so that was a pretty rough time for a bit, just feeling a little helpless with everything. My dad's actually the one who encouraged me to be a photographer. We took like a little trip because I was just so overwhelmed. And he's like, let's just take a trip. Let's get out. Let's like take a moment to like soak in what you actually want to do because you haven't even thought about it for yourself, which is really sweet.
Yeah.
And at the end, he was the one who was actually like, Emily, you should be a photographer. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't think so. I was like, I think there's a more stable thing out there. I don't know how to. And I think my brain process with it is I just didn't know what that meant. Like, I didn't even really know that other people are just starting their own businesses and kind of creating a life for themselves. I was just like, people have to get into the Met Gala to be a photographer, you know? And I was like, that seems
like such a high bar of entry.
Yeah, it seemed like something that was unachievable to me. And I'm very much a realist, so I kind of go for very achievable things. I go for high goals, just very achievable ones.
Okay.
And so it didn't seem possible to me. But during COVID, I kind of wanted to try it out, though. So I think COVID was the point that I was so not doing anything I loved that I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try to like get some kind of job that maybe has creativity in it. So I actually worked at like some boutiques for a little bit.
Okay, cool.
And kind of asked if I could take pictures of stuff while I was there. So I kind of got invested in that. And I actually just reached out to a few like boutiques in my area that I really loved. And I was like, if I could just be a photographer there, I would love to. Because also on the back of my head, I wanted to move to New York City. I was in Arkansas at the time.
And you were just living with your family during COVID?
I was actually, I did for like 2 months. Then I decided I can't. And so I actually just got an apartment during COVID.
Okay.
Back at college because I lived with all my college people and then went home for a second when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then got an apartment back at my college area.
Okay.
So I had that, and I just applied to random things on the spur of the moment, and actually one of them had reached out to me and was like, we're actually looking for a photographer for some of our clothing line.
Oh.
And I was like, what? It's like, there's no way like that. That's like a real job that someone's offering me. And again, I wanted to move to New York at the time, but everything was so shut down that I was like, I might as well just take this opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, why not? So I took that opportunity, and their name is Mod Boutique. So if anyone wants to look them up, they're really amazing. Like, the owner's so sweet. We got so connected over that time. I was with them for like a year, did photos for them. It was such a cool experience. And I think during that time, it was a very small business itself that was like started by the owner I got really close to. And she taught me so much just about running a small business and what that looked like. And I think that was just a eye opener for me to be like, this is possible.
Wait, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. And how did you know you wanted to move to New York City? Like, did you have college friends that were also moving here, or what about that? Like, being a girl from Arkansas, why did you think you wanted to move here?
Well, I actually didn't even really know I wanted to move until I visited for the first time when I was 21. So it was like about a year ago at this point.
Okay.
That I had just visited there. I visited for my 21st birthday. Fun fact, I don't really love my birthday. I feel like a bit overwhelmed by it sometimes. I like it enough, but I just don't know what to do with all the attention.
Yeah.
And so on my 21st birthday, I was like, this is a birthday I feel like people are going to give me more attention than I actually want. So I was just like, Mom, want to go to New York City with me? And she's like,
good.
Sure. So I was just a place I'd never been before.
Yeah.
Immediately when I got off that airplane, though, I was like, I want to live here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And ever since then, I was like, I just have to move there after college. And I'm just a very adventurous person in general. Like I said, I'm a realist, but I'm very a dreamer as well, like in that, but I do very realistic dreams. So like moving to a new place was like realistic to me. But
yeah, you have to move somewhere after college.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't want to stay in Arkansas.
Yeah.
So my goal at that time was like, as soon as like COVID is done, I'll move and go to New York City.
Okay.
So by the time things were starting to open up again in August, was it August of 21?
Is that when you moved?
Around August? I think it was August of 21.
It kind of depends on where you live, because I'm sure things were open in Arkansas a lot sooner then.
Yeah, I mean, things were a little still shut down when I first moved to New York. It was August of 21. Yeah, so I moved August of 2021 when things were like opening back up again, and one of my friends was just moving down there, and it was just a perfect opportunity for me to be roommates with someone, to kind of just get out there whenever COVID was still opening. So the apartments were a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
Everything just kind of worked out at that time. And so then I just made the move there, which was insane.
That's so exciting. And so did you work for the boutique up until then?
Yeah. So I worked for the boutique up until then. And then I thought I might get a job in New York City when I get there. And so I started applying for jobs at the same time. I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and I was still getting like a lot of podcasts about entrepreneurship and when to go full time. Because I just done during that whole season of me working at this boutique was kind of the moment I was like, I want to do this full time.
And you had been doing a bunch of stuff on the side too,
right?
Like different shoots and stuff.
So I'd been working for this boutique and doing their photography, but I also was doing my own weddings, shoots, sessions, all that kind of stuff. So I think it really became its own thing over time. Like I didn't even, it kind of just went, and I don't even remember the exact time I was like, I'm going to do photography full time. But it really was, I just started kind of doing it since it was COVID and I had nothing else to do. And my dad was kind of like, you should kind of do this, and kind of encouraging it.
Yeah.
And eventually it just kind of started becoming its own thing. Like while I was at this boutique, I had a full-time income coming in through just my own photography work. And so that was really encouraging of itself, but I think I was really still nervous to take that leap full time because I didn't know what that looked like. And again, I had no one else in my life who had done that.
So you didn't have like a photographer mentor at this point or anything?
No, I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have anyone that even did entrepreneurship at all. This was a completely new field to me, and I was literally learning it from scratch all by myself.
Did you teach yourself how to be a good photographer?
I taught myself everything.
Just from like the internet or just playing with it, or how did you do that?
Yeah, just from YouTube videos, playing around with it. I listened to a lot of podcasts. I absorbed that year. I just absorbed so much information.
That's
I was just
amazing.
Like a sponge, and I was just ready for it too. Because I'm such a passionate person that I knew once I found a passion, I would give everything to it. And so I think, again, I don't remember an exact time where I was like, I will be a photographer, but I think it was just in the midst of doing those creative things on the side and COVID still happening. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give this a shot full time.
I love that.
I know it wasn't, I still am skeptical. I'm still not sure how it's all going to work, but at least I'm going to try. At least I have like a full-time income coming in through this boutique. And then again, it kind of developed its own over time.
Yeah.
And I was just a sponge getting all the information I could to start my own business.
So you were working at the boutique, you're preparing to move to New York, and you were applying for jobs in New York, or were you already thinking like full-time photography? How did that work?
Yeah. So I was applying for jobs in New York.
Photography jobs?
Really anything. Honestly, I was like applying for other boutiques because I had that experience. Honestly, I was like applying for server jobs, like anything. Because again, it was the pandemic season still, so like no jobs were available. And I was kind of getting frustrated with it, and I was like, no jobs are available, but I'm still not 100% confident to do this thing by myself. I don't know what that even looks like. I know New York's one of the most expensive cities in the world. So I'm like, is that sustainable?
Right.
And I think I just hit a point where I was applying for jobs and I was like, there's nothing out there. There's nothing out there. I've talked to other people that are applying for jobs in New York right now. No one's getting anything. It's coming to August at this point.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go and try photography by myself and see what happens. I was like, I already have a few gigs I'm coming back for in Arkansas.
Okay.
So I have that money to sustain me. I had a pretty large savings account that I'd been saving for years to move to New York or to move somewhere. I've been saving it since like high school just to like
smart.
have that right out of college. So I was like, if anything, I could get by 3 to 6 months. And if I don't make a single dime, I'll be okay.
That's amazing.
So I might as well just go, give it my all, and see what happens.
Yeah.
So I kind of just made that decision after like job searching for a little bit. And I moved with absolutely nothing and just my savings account and really hoped for the best in it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And now, obviously, it's my full-time thing.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I think COVID really did help because there was a lot of shoots that needed photographers, but fewer photographers because photographers were making up for all the lost time during COVID.
Oh.
So I think it was honestly an advantage of mine to kind of be a photographer at that time. Because I jumped into it. I just started marketing myself like crazy. And this is why I promote Instagram so much as a small business, because the first thing I went to was Instagram, and I heard a ton of podcasts about that, a ton of things about how that was the spot to go to Reels. to start posting video content to get yourself marketed.
Okay.
And so I was just soaking up all this information and just utilizing it, just trying it all out and seeing what stuck.
Yeah.
And I realized Instagram Reels is what stuck the most.
Okay, so that was the main thing from all the things you absorbed during your podcast, like listening, soaking in era. I'm curious, what things from that time of kind of like being home or being in Arkansas during COVID, what prepared you? Instagram Reels, anything specific in that or anything else?
Yeah, so mostly Instagram or any kind of social media, just to start utilizing it. The biggest thing also people said is put yourself out there, like put your face out there, because there's so many photographers out there. So why would you choose one person compared to the other? Like my work is going to look very similar to other people's work.
Yeah.
I'm going to be just as good a photographer, if not a worse or better photographer than tons of other photographers out there. And so the only thing that's really making me special personally is my face, who I am, my personality, what I uniquely bring to the table as a human being. And people love to connect to other people. And so if people get on my platform and start feeling connected to me, then they're immediately going to be like, okay, now I have that connection point, and they're photographers. So if they're going to hire someone, they'd rather hire someone that they feel connected to and feel like they know, versus someone that they've only seen their work and they have nothing about that person.
Yeah.
You're almost kind of with social media, and I talk about this on my course again, but you're almost kind of creating your own TV series in a sense. Like, and you're the star. And like, let's just say use the Kardashians, for example. People feel like they know the Kardashians because they've been doing seasons about themselves since they were like 12.
Yeah.
And now they've gotten to know them over the years, and they continue to have these TV shows, even though these seasons are like maybe like 10 hours long, around that much.
Yeah.
And so you're really only seeing 10 hours of their life throughout like years.
Yeah.
In that season. And so you don't actually really know who these people are at all, but you almost feel like the illusion of you know who they are and you know their personality.
And then you buy their product.
And then you buy their product because you know who they are.
Trust them.
And you're familiar and you trust them. Same thing as any other marketing industry. You want to create that connection point so people have a reason to trust you and want to hire you.
Yeah.
Someone's so much more likely to hire someone they trust and connect with versus someone they know literally nothing about. They don't even know what their face looks like.
Definitely.
So I always am encouraging photographers, if a client doesn't go on your Instagram and immediately know who you are, know who your face is, what your name is, what your personality's like, then I encourage people to kind of go more towards that direction.
Yeah.
And so
that's good.
Yeah, I did a lot of that at the beginning and just continued to utilize these things. And this is where I learned all the information I now teach. But I did so much with Instagram and social media marketing and networking. I tried to reach out to as many people as possible when I first moved here, so that I would connect with their network and start outreaching. And it was so helpful to absorb all this information and learn it all, and now be able to teach it too is really, really sweet.
Yeah, that's so cool. Did you feel like in that beginning time, were you just like hustling all the time? Like, were you working all the time and just like, because when you're freelance full time, like no one's like, hey, clock in at 9, clock out at 5. Like, did you feel like you were working all the time?
Yes. A little too much, honestly.
I'm
hit
sure.
A point where I was like, this is a bit overwhelming and I need to probably calm down.
Yeah.
I also like teach a lot of balance in that. I have a lot of things set up now where I'm so much more balanced, because I think I wasn't even living. I think it was really exciting at the beginning because I was passionate about it. And I think any entrepreneur that starts is so passionate about that. That's like, that is their fun.
Yeah.
But once you've gotten into it for a bit, there is like a learning, and I even think like the sooner you learn this, the better. But there's a learning with balance in it all, and like having boundaries with your clients and having boundaries with yourself and work, and making sure you live just as much as you work. And I always say your business is there to serve you, not for you to serve it. And obviously you're serving your clients and you're serving, the people that you are taking care of, but your business is ultimately there to serve your lifestyle, not that you're just a slave to your business.
Yeah.
'Cause you never want to get in that routine. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs and photographers and people in creative industries become more of a slave to their business, and they just feel like these have-tos, even though it's like, you created this. And let's go back to your why. Why did you start this? Why do you love this? Why are you doing this? Is it to have more time with your family and friends? Is it to be able to have a more flexible lifestyle? Is it because you love photography? And are you still using those things to your best advantage while having this business? Because I think a lot of those things get lost in the midst of it as people are running their business, because they're like, money focused, they're driven focused, they're like successful focused, and they're like, I just need to
Right.
get X, Y, and Z done every single day. And then they overwhelm themselves and get burnt out because they forgot about their why.
Wow. That is so true. And
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear more about your journey of finding balance and finding, like, I know you moved and that may be part of that too. Like, you're living in Florida right now. But before we get into that, I want to hear about kind of your, I guess, scaling your business. Is that how you would say? Because you're doing coaching and courses now. Like, how did you kind of take that next step from, okay, I'm a photographer, I'm full-time creative, to like, okay, I'm a business person, and now here's this next step for me?
Yeah. That's a great question. The thing with me is actually when I was in college, the first thing I wanted to step into is like teaching, like I said. Like I was thinking about being a teacher or child life specialist or something in that realm. And with the teaching side of it, I actually wanted to do that because I really enjoy teaching. Like I remember in high school, I loved showing like if I understood a subject, I absolutely loved showing people how to do it. And I loved being able to be an easy source for something to click to them and be like, oh, okay, I get it. Like I love that look of people just like lighting up that they finally got it or they finally understood something, or someone sitting down and just simplifying things for someone and then being like, this is the tools you need, like here's what you need to do to utilize it, and them just being like, oh my gosh, thank you. And
That's
I think
cool.
I also really enjoy that because I didn't have anyone to do that for me. Like I had to learn it all from scratch.
Yes.
I had to do it all on my own, and I had no one showing me all you have to do is X, Y, and Z, and these are the tools you need to market. Especially as photographers or creatives, our number one priority and what we're passionate at is creating.
Right.
And so learning how to market ourselves, which is the most important thing for us to make that a career.
Yeah.
Like you can do that as a hobby all day long, but if you want to make it a career, you're going to have to market yourself. You have to have people willing to purchase or buy your services. And so I think what I really teach is, you know, you might have like the most amazing work in the world, but if no one's seeing it and you don't know how to market yourself, it's not really going to go anywhere. And so I see these other creatives that have such valued work, and I want to give them the tools on top of that to be able to utilize that as a career and to be able to market themselves. Because I always say I think I fell in love with the marketing side, sometimes even more than the photography side.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the photography side of it, but I also see marketing as such a creative point for me specifically as well. I see it as such a game, something to like learn and figure out. And I think just like the passion behind figuring it out and like seeing it work in real life and have no one telling me how to do it, and then like utilizing certain things or trying things out and seeing them work, I think was just so exciting to me. And so now I want to teach other people how to do that. So I think I already had that passion to teach and to show people, and really wanting to show other photographers how to do that. And I was already just starting to do it for free for people. I would just sit down with them and talk with them and want to share just the knowledge I had because I was so excited to teach people that they can do this too. And so I already had that passion. I was like, you know what? Why don't I turn it into a course? Why don't I turn it into like an education program so more people can utilize that? And another thing I wanted to do was I really wanted to make this really accessible to photographers who were just starting out, because I knew for me, I didn't have thousands of dollars to invest in a course as a new photographer. And so I was like, okay, what's the cheapest I can make this for photographers to be able to have all the information they need to be able to market themselves well, to be able to start a full-time career too. And I wanted to really nail it on the head with the thing that I found was most important. You know, I think a lot of courses have just a bunch of other things, like all these things out there, which I think I'll potentially utilize one day too. But for my first one, I really just wanted to do like the very best point, which to me, I saw 90% of my clients coming through Instagram Reels.
Amazing.
And finding me through that. And so I just wanted to give other people that resource as like best I possibly could. And I think that's where it all started.
Oh, that is so cool. I love that you wanted to just hone in on the one thing. Like, this is most important. And I took your free webinar for Mastering Reels.
Oh, yes.
And I thought it was great. Even though I'm not a photographer, I just found it really helpful as like a podcast entrepreneur person. So
that's so fun.
I loved it. Yeah. That's really cool, Emily. I think it's awesome how you have the balance. And I think a lot of small business owners, the more that I'm starting to get into the small business, I've been in it, but the marketing kind of side of things as well. Just like, I think a lot of people find that when they're a small business owner, they love like the thing that they make.
I know.
And they love the business or the marketing side
Yeah.
as well. It's really ends up being really intertwined when you have to be the person who's doing everything. So
yeah, and that's why I just want to connect those points for people, because I mean, yeah, you get into it because you love the art side of it.
right.
And I'm so passionate about people learning the actual marketing side of it too, so they can utilize it to their best ability.
Yes, and you being there to help them saves them a ton of like research and time where they're still doing it themselves, but they just have a little bit of the help that if not, they might be spending hours and hours like Googling,
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so it obviously sounds like you do a ton of things and I'm sure your schedule is not very conventional because you're shooting weddings and you're doing things at certain hours of the day and stuff like that. How do you find balance in your life? And has there been a period of burnout or nearing burnout at all for you? You talked about how you feel a lot more balanced now than you did before. What does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, I think there was lots of points that I almost hit burnout, even just like talking kind of from the past. I think that first year of doing it in New York City, I was just like on a grind, which I think really did help me learn so much information. And I think I feel like I went through like 5 years during that 1 year period of like information and learning, if not like 10 years. I would even talk about it with people and they're like, how did you learn all this information so quickly? And I was like, I just like spent way too much time and energy, which I think was only bringing me on a path to burnout. And I think that's when I started implementing, more boundaries and like, okay, these are the times I can be on work and these are the times I'm not going to be, or this is the communication I'll bring to my clients so that I can make sure I'm off on this times. I even I have now an assistant who's just so helpful to have. And utilizing that has been so helpful because now I can spend more time doing the creative side while she's spending more time on emails. And so
amazing.
Just bringing a lot of different balance points in order to not burn myself out and not go like in a spiral cycle.
Okay, so you ended up finding more balance in New York City, but now you've moved to Florida. So tell us about that. And you're kind of like part-time New Yorker now.
Yes.
Tell us about like the decision behind that. Was it a business decision, energy decision?
Yeah. So I feel like I keep saying that this season in Florida has just been so much more needed than I even knew. I moved end of November of 2023.
Yeah.
So it's just been like 4-ish months now since I've moved. And I think there was a lot of different reasons, even more than I even thought. Like now looking back to it, I'm like, oh, these were the reasons. But at first, I'm a very like, I love adventure and I'm always just like ready to move to the next thing. And my sister lives in Florida. So I was like, that just seems like a really cool opportunity. But at the same time, I was also feeling like I was once again nearing a point of burnout, just like being in the city. I think I moved here just hit the ground running. Like I immediately went straight into building a business. I went straight into starting to do so many different shoots and weddings. And I was meeting so many friends. I was learning how to adult. I was learning how to do finances on my own. I was learning how to do just so many different things. I think I just hit a point where I hadn't even processed any of it. And I'm not saying you have to like move in order to do any of that.
No.
But I think it was, a decision I made for other reasons. And then on top of that, I think it was so useful already for me being able to really get the processing and rest and kind of creativity that I needed in that. And I always say, like, I could see myself moving back at the end of, this year. I could see myself move back in 2 years, whatever. But I think I moved when I wasn't tired of New York yet. And I think a lot of people also were like, oh my gosh, you're moving? Like, you love New York City. You love it so much. Like, why are you moving if you love it so much? And something I always say to that, because I am a very adventurous person, is I'm always like, I so encourage people to always keep exploring, no matter what they're doing. I think now I could labelize or put myself in the stereotype of I'm a photographer and that's what I'm doing. And I'm a photographer and I'm a New York City girl. And those are my stereotypes from now on. And I think so often as adults, we do that. Like we find our one passion or the thing that we really love. And all of a sudden we've stereotyped ourselves in that area.
Yeah.
And we kind of get trapped like in our own thing. Like I was even saying, when you become a slave to the business where you're just now going through like the motions and you're not even having fun with it anymore. Or you become a slave to your own stereotypes and you can't get out of those. And so I always tell people I still love New York City so much. I could see myself moving back in just like 6 months time. I could see myself living here for the rest of my life if I move back. I could see myself moving overseas. I could see so many things. And I encourage people, like, never stop moving, or never stop exploring, not moving. You can move too.
Move every year.
Move every single 6 months.
Maybe don't do that.
No, just never stop exploring. And, if you feel like, I want to try this new thing, don't let yourself feel stopped for that just because you found one thing you love.
Yeah.
I think the rest of our lives, I would love to keep trying new things. And I think that's the really cool part for me about being an entrepreneur. As of right now, I see photography being something I do for a very long time. But in that, I don't see myself just staying with the same old, doing the same things. Like, I want to continue to grow in it. I want to continue to find new concepts and play with lighting and play with scenarios and places and move and do everything I can because, we're in our 20s.
Yeah.
So why not? Like,
yeah.
I have the ability to do that kind of stuff. And I think, I think we get stuck a little too often. And I think even not in your 20s, I think a lot of people in like their 50s or 60s or whatever, like start getting stuck and they're like, oh, well, it's already too late for me.
Right.
I hear people in their 20s say that, like, it's too late for me. I'm like, wait.
I've had thoughts like that before. And you're like, what?
Yeah. I'm like, you just started. What? You just started.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too late. And I don't think it's ever too late for anyone to ever try something new again.
No.
It's only too late once you've left this life,
Earth,
like
you're
Earth,
dead.
and you're not around anymore. Like, that's the only time it's too late.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's so exciting as humans to be able to explore and create and try new things and put ourselves in new situations and challenge ourselves and grow ourselves. And I don't see myself ever stop doing that. So just because I love one thing doesn't mean I can't love another thing, or I can't try something new, or I can't explore another thing.
Right.
I always use the quote of, you can have everything in your life, but just not all at the same time. I think it's such a powerful thing I've been able to remember throughout my life.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, moving to Florida, now I have a little bit more mind capability. I have a little bit more freedom. I have some more space to play around with. I'm able to be with a family member, my sister, who I really wanted to live with. I'm able to, be by a beach and in nature and all of those different things I've been able to gain. But I did lose being in a city, my friends here, that day in, day out, like the hustle lifestyle that I really enjoy, like my favorite place in the world, like living in there. And so there's things I've gained and there's things I've lost along the way. And I think so often, and I think it's just people in our 20s too, or whoever you are in life, I think so often we're trying to gain everything. Like, we want to live with the family member and we want to live in the city while also being in nature, while also having space, while also having a car, but also being able to take public transportation. We think... I think where we get stuck in our lives is we think we can have it all and we think we're behind because we don't have it all, or we haven't accomplished everything. And that's where I'm always like, you can have everything that you want. It's just not going to be all at the same time. So enjoy what you have now, because in a different season of life, you might not have what you have now. You might have the next new thing that you've really been striving and growing and challenging yourself for. But once you get that, you're going to lose other things.
Yeah.
And so I just value each moment of life. So I just think each one is so important, because the things that I have right now in this season aren't necessarily going to be what I have in next season. I know I'll miss certain things in this season that I won't have next season.
Oh, that's so good, Emily. And that leads us to our last question. What is something that kind of keeps you grounded in this season where so much is changing all the time? Or, you're in Florida, but you could move again. Your schedule might look different every day. What's like a practice or a simple joy in your life that kind of keeps you grounded?
Yeah, for sure. I think, there's so many little things, but truly, like I was just saying, remembering to be present and just kind of grounding yourself in that, because, I think we're so future focused sometimes that we forget what we have now is the most important thing, because the only time we have is right now. And so just implementing little things throughout your life and taking time to slow down, I think, is so important, regardless of where you are, in a big city, in a small town. And really making, what you have, like, worthwhile. Because I think so often in my life, and I've really learned how to kind of change this perspective of just always wanting the next thing and not being as present. And I think just implementing small things in your life right now, like if you love reading, making sure you have time in your life to read. If you love spending time and getting coffee with friends, making sure you utilize that. Because, again, I think we get so hyper fixated on, what am I doing for the future? How much money am I making? How am I how am I accomplishing this goal? How many successful things can I get in all at one time? How am I going to move or achieve like the things I actually want in my life? How am I going to make my life better? And instead, I think that's such a toxic way to think, because every time we get that next thing that we really want, there's always going to be something else. There's always going to be something else. And it's just going to keep being an endless cycle. So remembering to value this moment now and taking times to go on a walk, or taking times to just sit down in a coffee shop with a friend, or whatever you love, start implementing those things little by little in your life. That way you really can be present. And when you are more present, I think the more fulfilling your life is, and also the more you're able to concentrate and be really creative in what you're given.
Yes.
Especially as a creative, because I think when we run around and do like 10 things all the time and are trying to achieve things that we're not even sure, I think we can get in a headspace again of burnout. And that's when burnout starts to happen, and we start to kind of lose our why, or like the real vision we're like wanting in life. And when we slow down and really enjoy the things we're able to be more sound-minded in the things we're doing right now.
Yes, it's so true. And a quick book rec on that topic is Deep Work by Cal Newport. I'm reading it right now, but they literally talk about this theory called, I think it's attention restoration theory, that actually spending time in nature, going for a walk, taking your time away from your work for a minute to be somewhere else, especially nature, literally restores your ability to concentrate and have new ideas and focus, which is just so cool. So
I think it's cool. Another book rec.
Yes.
I think a lot of people have heard of this one, and I think I'm about to butcher the name. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Yes, John Mark Comer. So
many people have read that one, but to people who have not heard of it or have maybe even read it before, read it again.
I've read it 3 times.
I think it's just such a good reminder to be like, oh my gosh, we do need to slow down. Because I think, again, in our generation right now, we're getting so much information.
Yeah.
At us 24/7, especially as creatives, it's hard to be creative in this because we're seeing so much.
Yeah.
And we feel like we're behind.
Yeah.
Where in fact, doing what we're doing now, we're picking one accomplishment a day and not trying to get 10 million things done a day, is actually the normal human pace. But I think the world right now is making us feel like we're behind.
Like we're crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And which is only causing us to spiral and get burnout.
Yeah.
And so I think just, again, going through accomplishable goals and letting yourself take time to do those is really important.
Oh, so good. Thanks so much, Emily, for coming on the podcast. This was so fun. I love your business savvy and your creative mind. You're so fun.
Thank you.
This was a joy.
It was absolutely such an honor to be a part of it.
So fun. You guys can find Emily. Your Instagram is Emily Denny Photo?
Yes, at Emily Denny Photo.
And then from there, they can find like your website and all, right?
Yes, and then website is www.emilydennyphoto.com.
Amazing.
So same thing.
Perfect.
And you can find everything on my bio on my Instagram too.
Great. And I'll link all your stuff in the show notes too.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have a great day. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Tears and Joy Podcast, and send this to a friend who you think might enjoy it. We'll see you next time.